A proposal to boost the power supply by adding transmission lines and 4 to 5 substations east and southeast of Lake Winnebago is now before the Public Service Commission. 2 hearings took place today in Brillion, allowing people to ask questions about the proposal by American Transmission Company. Residents say the power is needed for future AI data centers. As part of their approval process, state law requires an environmental impact statement to be conducted.
Basically, any transmission line that's above 345 kV and is longer than 10 miles in length is open for basically an impact statement for people to come and talk about, what this project means to them, kind of different things that we need to understand about the environmental impacts that are of that area.
The Public Service Commission has until December to make a decision on whether to approve, modify, or deny that project.